Spider-Man Far From Home is the latest live-action Spider-Man film, and this is the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, in addition to being an epilogue to Avengers Endgame, and so it wraps up Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while also teasing us for what lies ahead. Jon Watts returns to direct from Spider-Man Homecoming, with most of the cast also returning from that film. Of course, if you've been watching the trailers and you've been paying attention to this film, then you know that this movie is directly affected by the end of Avengers Endgame, so it definitely helps if you've seen that film first, as Spider-Man Far From Home completely spoils Avengers Endgame, even though Far From Home does a pretty good job at catching people up. The film follows Peter Parker and his classmates taking a European school trip, visiting locales like Venice, Prague, and Berlin. On this trip, Peter is completely preoccupied with confessing his feelings for MJ, but all of that gets put into turmoil when Nick Fury recruits Peter to defeat a new threat called the Elementals, with the assistance of Mysterio. It's a great time to be a Spider-Man fan. Between Into the Spider-Verse, PS4 game, and of course Tom Holland's live-action portrayal of the character, people have become very attached to Tom Holland's interpretation of Spider-Man, thanks in a big part to the character's handling in Avengers Infinity War. And for good reason. Tom Holland is a fantastic Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and I think this film is the first time in the MCU that we've really gotten to see him be Spider-Man. Tom Holland is so good in this film, and it's great he started this role so young, because I'd be happy to see him playing the role for years to come. I grew up loving the Tobey Maguire Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and Spider-Man 2 is still my favourite Spider-Man film, but Far From Home really feels like it has the DNA from those films, which is why I walked out of Far From Home having really enjoyed myself. I really enjoyed Spider-Man Homecoming when it came out. It's incredibly light-hearted and fun, but on subsequent rewatches, I found it isn't quite as memorable as, say, the Raimi films, particularly as someone who enjoys seeing Spider-Man swinging around skyscrapers and doing crazy stunts. Far From Home feels like a proper evolution from Homecoming. As a sequel, it does everything right. The film is darker and deals more with Peter's responsibilities as Spider-Man coming into conflict with his love life. I definitely enjoyed the cute scenes between Peter and MJ in the film. The chemistry between Tom Holland and Zendaya was wonderful. They seem to be incredibly comfortable with each other, even though the interaction is supposed to be awkward. It's all very sweet and feels natural. Peter's friend Ned makes a welcome return where he delivers some of the funniest lines in the film, but he definitely gets pushed to the side as the film focuses more on the Peter and Mysterio relationship. Mysterio is a character I've been wanting to see in a Spider-Man film for a long time, and it's insane how visually accurate he is to the comics in this film, because we did miss out on seeing Bruce Campbell playing the character in the now cancelled Spider-Man 4. It's crazy to me that both Vulture and Mysterio were meant to be the villains of Spider-Man 4, and now we've gotten to see them in the two Tom Holland films. And better yet, casting Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, who very nearly played Spider-Man in Spider-Man 2 when Tobey Maguire was injured during the filming of Seabiscuit and almost didn't reprise the role. Jake Gyllenhaal is so wonderful in this film. He can sell these really intimate, mentoring moments with Peter, but then manage to have a lot of fun during the big CG action moments. I really loved how the Mysterio character was handled in the film. Without going into too many specifics, the character in the comics has always been this master of illusion, and thankfully Marvel and Sony make the most of that aspect of the character. The Mysterio sequences in the film are some of the most visually impressive and creative sequences that we've ever seen in a Spider-Man film to date. The movie can go a bit too heavy on big CG action moments at times, where it all feels overly digital and fake, to the point where it can feel a bit like visual noise. Far From Home also still uses previous MCU films as a bit of a crutch. I thought that aspect was handled a bit better than it was in Homecoming, but it also just made me wish we could get a traditional Spider-Man trilogy without having to worry about the rest of the Marvel universe. I did appreciate Spider-Man having to step up and take matters into his own hands in this film. Even though Nick Fury is here and assigning him missions, the choices and actions all rely on Peter's decisions. A criticism of Homecoming was that Spider-Man felt like Iron Man Jr., so I'm glad to see Peter growing into being Spider-Man and acting more independently of the other Marvel heroes. And Tom Holland completely delivers throughout the movie, showing Peter gradually becoming more confident and growing into the role of Spider-Man. The journey felt earned and a big step up from his character arc in Homecoming. Plus, I really enjoyed seeing a live-action Spider-Man movie where Aunt May actually knows that Peter is Spider-Man and is completely okay with it. Michael Giacchino's Far From Home score is also noteworthy. I thought it was fantastic and felt like a great evolution from his work on Homecoming, excelling in the film's more dramatic and tender moments, while honouring the themes that had come before. If you're a fan of Spider-Man and the MCU, then you owe it to yourself to see this as soon as possible. The movie appropriately wraps up the Infinity Saga while eagerly teasing us for what comes next in Phase 4 and beyond, and I can't wait. The mid and post-credit scenes are some of my all-time favourites, and the mid-credit scene in particular had me clapping and cheering. I just could not believe what happened. So definitely catch these moments before they get spoiled for you. Spider-Man Far From Home is a great addition to the Spider-Man movie mythology that is going to have everyone guessing about what could possibly come next. This definitely feels closer to the Spider-Man movies that I grew up watching, and honestly the tone of this film feels right for what these movies should be. Light-hearted light-hearted fun and some romance, balanced with gravity and stakes for actions and responsibility. Plus we got Tom Holland swinging around skyscrapers, so I was ecstatic. Spider-Man Far From Home gets an 8.8 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you like this review. If you want to see more reviews just like this one, stay right here for your Mono Fix. Bye guys.